After the quite brilliant British Grand Prix, let's get through and rate the drivers. Max Verstappen is where we're going to start, number 1. He was fastest again in qualifying and in the race. He clearly won that one with the fastest lap also. However, it was a poor start from him, and to lose a couple of places, he had a bit of a... Well, he was comfortable, wasn't he? Let's be honest, can't brush it up. But I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for this weekend because it wasn't as flawless as we've seen previously. Next up, Lando Norris, and he had an absolutely mega weekend, didn't he? Beyond his wildest dreams, probably. No one thought the upgrades on the McLaren would propel them that far forward. A P2 in qualifying, a P2 in the race. To take the lead right at the start was absolutely magnificent. The roar from the crowd was fantastic. And also to hold off Lewis Hamilton crucially just at the restart of that safety car on the harder tyres was a brilliant job from him. A well-deserved second place. 10 out of 10 for Lando Norris. And then comes Lewis Hamilton, another podium position finish for him, but he had a really poor qualifying session. That Mercedes was nowhere, weren't they? Way back, 7th place qualifying start for him, but the safety car worked out a treat for him, moved him up into 3rd place, and that was well held. Good strategy call in the end, I suppose, from the Mercedes, but they were poor this weekend. Next up, Hungary, they really do go well there, and I hope for a better performance from them, but a 7 out of 10 for Lewis. And then we come to Oscar Piastri. What a fantastic weekend for him. A P3 in qualifying, and only the hard luck of the safety car timing, which cost him a podium. I'm pretty sure he would have got that. He just didn't put a foot wrong, did he? He was right up on Norris's gearbox early on. Well, actually probably the faster of the two McLarens, and had that straight been a little bit longer, I imagine he would have taken the pair of Verstappen and Norris at the start. He had a brilliant start, didn't he? Can't fault the guy. I'm going to go for a 10 out of 10 because it was just a really solid weekend from a rookie. Next up, Georgie boy Russell. He got held up by Charles Leclerc early on, didn't he? On them soft tyres, which he did a fantastic job in that stint. But then made a brilliant move around the outside at Luffield on Charles Leclerc. And then the safety car cost him, didn't it? He got jumped by his teammate. But a solid finish in 5th place for him. I'm going to go for a 7 out of 10 for this weekend for him. And then comes Sergio Perez. He finished in 6th place, and after another qualifying performance where he gets kicked out in Q1, that's the 5th time now. The pressure is really on Sergio Perez, especially with this Danny Rick move over to AlphaTauri. I'm sure that's going to be lined up for a potential Perez move. I can sense it now. I can sense it. But let's see what happens with him. He decent recovery in the race to 6th, but in a track where you can overtake in Silverstone, I expected him to be a lot higher up. I'm sure Max Verstappen in that car would have. Just a 3 out of 10 for him this weekend. Next up, Fernando Alonso, 7th place finish for him. I think he got the best out of the car, didn't he? But that car's now fallen behind the Mercedes and the McLaren. After being the contender to the Red Bulls for the early parts of this season, their pace has dropped off. I think he did the best he could in that car, but I'm going for a 7 out of 10 for Alonso for this weekend. Alex Albon in that Williams, an 8th place finish. He had a fantastic weekend, didn't he? He did a really good job getting up into the 8th place. What a fantastic move on Carlos Sainz. He did really well to hold off Charles Leclerc as well, but just a shame he just didn't have enough time or pace to get past Alonso. A brilliant weekend for him, going for a 9 out of 10. Next up, Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari have had a stinker of a race, haven't they? They had a decent qualifying, starting up in 4th and 5th, but the race just really went backwards. The Ferrari was really poor in the race, weren't they? Didn't put any pressure on McLaren, and they were actually under pressure from Russell and Hamilton, the two Ferraris, throughout this weekend. Don't know where their pace has gone. I expected them to do a lot better. But they can only go forward from here. They'll be hoping better. 6 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. And then comes his teammate Carlos Sainz. He finished in the points at 10th place. Again, he was struggling in that Ferrari, wasn't he? Did well to get a point, I suppose. Decent qualifying, but really poor race. Don't know where their pace has gone. Again, 5 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. Next up, a name that we're really surprised to hear, Logan Sargent. Yes, a much better performance from him this weekend. We're used to hearing his name at the back of the field from much of this season so far. It's a shame he missed out on his first points for Williams for this weekend, but a really good upturning performance, a really good race. Glad to see him fighting closer along with Albon I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10 for him this weekend. And then comes Valtteri Bottas, another one that's be glad to be closer to the midfield pack. He finished in 12th place. He actually started last, and to move up 8 places, a brilliant race for him. Finally, he's moving forward in the race. Much better performance from the Alfa Romeo team. They were kind of hoping for some points, but just missed out, probably because of the strong performance of the McLarens. They really shot up there, didn't they? So, a decent weekend overall. I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Valtteri. Next up, Nico Hülkenberg, 13th place finish. The Haas team was a bit disappointing, weren't they? They weren't really in with a shout for points this weekend. His early broken wing cost him because his strategy was to go long, and he would have probably benefited from the safety car, and that was a real shame for him because he could have potentially been in the fight like Albon for a point at least, or thereabouts. Wasn't to be. 6 out of 10 for him this weekend. Then comes Lance Stroll. He had a really scruffy weekend, didn't he? He was playing bumper cars with Pierre Gasly in the race. He was all over the place, wasn't he? A weekend to kind of forget and hopefully move on from. I'm going for a 4 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Then up Zhou Guanyu, 15th place finish for him. He had a good start, didn't he? Made up 2 places early on, but that was it from there, wasn't it? He then pitted again late under the safety car. Really struggled around this weekend. I'm going for a 5 out of 10 for Zhou Guanyu. And then comes Yuki Tsunoda, a 16th place finish. He had a brilliant start. He made up 3 places early on. He then struggled. That car, he said, is really slow in the slow speed corners. Struggled to keep up with the rest. 5 out of 10 for him this weekend. Next up, Nick De Vries, and he won't be here with the team for next weekend at Hungary. Surprisingly, I mean, his comments didn't help, did they, after the race, where he felt that he actually had a competitive race. He finished the last of the runners, so bit of an odd comment from there. Probably didn't help him to try and persuade the team to keep him. 4 out of 10. I think it's a bit of a shame that he's gone so early, though. Let's see where he ends up if he gets back on the grid. And then comes Pierre Gasly, P18. He was really angry after the race, wasn't he? Had a decent qualifying in P10. And then in the safety car restart, he was really feisty, wasn't he? Making up positions. Got taken out by Lance Stroll. Race suspension failure, and that was him done. He was massively disappointed. But a 7 out of 10. He went out through no fault of his own. Then up, Kevin Magnussen. He had issues all throughout, didn't he, this weekend? P19 in qualifying, he then stopped out on track, and then in the race also he had an engine failure, lap 31. Very harsh to rate him when you don't qualify well and struggle for DNF in the race. No rating for him. And then on to Ocon. He had not a great qualifying in P13, wasn't it? He was out-qualified by his teammate. DNF on lap 9, so it's a bit harsh to give him a rating, so no rating for him also this weekend. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always. Watch out for the preview of the Hungarian Grand Prix coming up. I'll see you then.